In the House of David, specifically in episode 4 and beyond, you'll start to notice that every now and then the characters in the storyline, they begin to refer to God as Hashem. So one of the things that I actually really love about what the House of David is doing is they're actually reintroducing us to Hebraic phrases that are deeply rooted in biblical truths and theological principles about God. So one of the ways that they do this is through the utilization of actual Hebrew phrases and words, right? So the phrase Hashem simply means the name. Interestingly, this is how oftentimes even in the Bible, God is referred to. And so what the House of David is just doing is kind of retrieving this concept for us. I want to get into a little bit of the theology behind Hashem, behind the name, and to really show why this is something that shouldn't just be overlooked and passed over, but actually is unpacking. And I'm not even sure if the House of David producers and the writers of the story even kind of grasp the full depth of it. I'm sure they do, because they're doing an immense amount of research on this based off of my understanding and as I've kind of been working through it. But for the ancient Israelites, there were two aspects to God, to his personhood. And we're going to get into why this plays out with Hashem. But the two aspects that were so important is first the weight and the glory of God. Right? It's the immense weight and the glory of God. The Hebrew word kavod, it really captures this. It can literally be understood as weighty, and it's got connotations of the otherness of God. The kavod of God was unapproachable, and it puts on display the awe and the very grandeur of God. The second aspect is the presence of God. Now, obviously, there's a little bit of crossover between these two ideas, right? The glory of God put the presence of God on display. But the full context of the glory of God is to be made known, right? To have this intimacy with the Lord. But the problem is that the full weight of the glory made this knowing almost impossible. So the other aspect of God, his presence, it actually captures the desire of God to be known. And how's he going to be known? He's going to be known through his name. I kind of really appreciate the way one scholar describes this kind of tension between the glory of God and the presence of God. So God's glory is this is what the scholar says, quote, God's glory is representative of God's presence as holy, awesome, and unapproachable, where sinners must be shielded from exposure. In contrast, God's name is knowable. And Moses could experience the name and goodness of God, which expresses the disposition of the divine nature to show mercy. Now, we are talking this article comes from John Yo, and it's just really, really helpful, that quote that kind of puts the glory of God and the presence of God in conversation together. We can see all of this really on display as God protects the people of Israel in the wilderness. Well, what does he do? He puts a cloud during the day in order to shield, right? The one aspect, there's dual purpose. One is to shield the people of Israel from the fiery heat of the sun, right? That's what the cloud does. But the other thing that the cloud actually does is it serves as a protective barrier between God and his people, because God himself is as powerful as the sun is, as majestic as the sun is, as fierce as the sun is, right? The presence of God is limitless. It is extraordinary. It is unlimited in terms of its weight and ferocity. And so what this cloud is doing is both a protection from the sun, but also, in a sense, a protection from God himself. It serves as a protective barrier between God and his people. So there's this pivotal moment in the Old Testament where God actually reveals his name to Moses. So again, Hashem, the name, and then the name is fleshed out in an intimate way and then in a general way. And in the story of Exodus 3:4, the story of the burning bush, you've got this fascinating detail that you find the angel of the Lord is in the burning bush, but then God speaks from the burning bush. So we're left with this question, well, who is God? Who's speaking? Like, what's happening? Is this the angel of the Lord or is this God? Well, the answer is yes. The answer is simply yes. There's actually, I think, an intentionality here to put the angel of the Lord in conversation with the voice of Yahweh himself. And so when you find the presence of the angel of the Lord, I think you actually find the presence of Yahweh. Side note, I'm pretty confident that the angel of the Lord is in fact just the pre-incarnate Christ. And so different video at a different time to unpack all of that. It's interesting that what Moses asks God for is his name. Hey, Humble Theology fam, I'm so excited to share with you my first solo Bible study, Finding Peace Through Humility, a Bible study through the book of Judges. Now, the whole idea of the book of Judges is that the people of God are spiraling kind of out of control. And the question we have is it possible for them to actually come out of the spiral? And it is. And kind of what I present throughout this Bible study is that the thing that's hiding in plain sight, that God is just consistently trying to draw the people of Israel back then and his people today to, is the ancient virtue of humility. The gift of humility is the gift of self-awareness so that we can know who God is, we can know who we are, and so that we are powerfully equipped to know other people. And so I'm really excited about this Bible study. There are video lessons that go with it, and of course, this Bible study guide as well. You can get Finding Peace Through Humility on Amazon, wherever Bible studies are sold, and then I'll also put a link for it as well in the show notes. Blessings to you, friends. And the reason why he does this is he wants to tell the Israelites exactly who it is that is offering this rescue. So this is an indication of the Deuteronomy 32 worldview that we've been talking about and going through. The gods of the nations were real beings. They were Elohim. They were spirit beings, disembodied spirits, and they had names, right? Dagon, Baal, Molech. And I think what Moses is like, listen, how do we know that you're the one true God, that you're the God of our forefathers? And God replies, right? In Exodus 3:14 through 15, God replies and says to Moses, I am who I am, right? This is what you're to say to the Israelites. I am has sent me to you. And God says to Moses, say this to the Israelites, the Lord, the God of your ancestors, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob has sent me to you. This is my name forever. This is how I am to be remembered in every generation. This is Exodus 3:14 through 15. So a couple things that are kind of important here in the Hebrew. The Hebrew phrase, I am, it's Ehyah, and it means the one who was, the one who is, and the one who will always be, right? This is who God always was. This is God's personal name. This is the God of the forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And this is not a new God that's come to you. This is the one true God, the uncreated creator that has come to you. But when Moses has to go and tell the people, he has to grammatically change the name. He can't say Ehyah because that means I am, because Moses is not the I am. He's not that person. So instead he says Yahweh, which is he is. This is where we get the intimate name of God, Yahweh. He's the one who was, who is, and who will always be. So when you see Lord in all caps in English, you know that this is in fact a reference to the intimate name of God. When you see Lord in English, you find that this is actually a reference to the intimate name of God. And it's just an indicator that our English Bibles do for us. And so the name, though, there are over 7,000 references to Yahweh in the Old Testament. What the biblical authors do is they use also ha-Shem in conversation with Yahweh. It's an alternative way to refer to the intimate name of God. And all this is pretty important. And I'll actually want to I've got a video here that I'm going to play for you that kind of does the grammatical kind of situations that are taking place, because there's something happening with the Hebrew words for Lord and God and how they're translated into Greek. And so what you find in Deuteronomy 6:4 is you have, listen, Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. And so the word listen, it has in mind, pay attention to, be committed to, be devoted. It's not just passive listening, but it's active participation. The English word Lord in all caps is Yahweh. The English word God is the Hebrew word Elohim, and saying Yahweh is our God, Elohim, and he's one. They're one, right? The Lord our God, the Lord is one. Now, if you go to the New Testament, 1 Corinthians 8:6, you find Paul is actually doing something pretty amazing. Paul actually is recalling Deuteronomy 6:4, and he's going to make a very specific connection. Remember, Hashem, the name, is an alternative way to describe Yahweh. So in the Old Testament, the Hebrew Elohim was translated in Greek as theos, which means God. The Hebrew Yahweh translated as Kyrios in Greek, and that was the name for Christ, right? Jesus Christ. Notice what we have here in 1 Corinthians 8:6. You've got, yet for us there is one God, the Father. All things are from him, and we exist for him. Well, who is God? God is Elohim. Who is Elohim? He's the Father, right? All things are for him, right? And there is one Lord. Well, who is Lord? He is Yahweh. Well, who's Yahweh? Yahweh is Christ. All things are through him. And we have our life. So notice what Paul does. He actually shows us that this is actually the unification that we've got. You've got Yahweh, which is the intimate name of God. And by the New Testament, we're associating Yahweh with Jesus. Well, you've got now Hashem, the name, as a connection point to Jesus himself. Now, Jesus himself makes this explicit. In John 17, Jesus makes everything kind of go together. This is John 17, verse 16. Actually, we'll pick up in verse 11. It says, I'm no longer in the world, but they are in the world, and I'm coming to you. Holy Father, protect them by your name that you have given me. You see this? So that they may be one as we are one. This is like a hyperlink all the way back to Deuteronomy 6. This is a hyperlink to that, what Paul is going to refer to in the Corinthians passage. And it says, while I was with them, I was protecting them by your name that you have given me. Well, that's a hyperlink all the way back to the wilderness wandering. Like, this protection isn't something new. Jesus has been doing this from the very beginning. Like, I always want to point out, Jesus is not waiting in some green room for his grand appearance in the New Testament. Jesus is actually present and active in the Old Testament. And this is what Jesus says, I guarded them, and not one of them is lost except the son of destruction, so that the scriptures may be fulfilled. And so I kind of love how the house of David has just in a subtle way put Hashem in front of us, right? It's vernacular that has immense theological meaning. They're doing something that's theologically brilliant. They're pointing out the seed that's planted in the Old Testament that anticipates Jesus. Additionally, as they do all this unpacking of the story of David, the great king of Israel, it's actually from this king, the line of King David, that we get the great King Jesus. Mind blown? Yes, same. This is why theology is amazing. I hope this was helpful for you. As always, if you find this helpful, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a video. The vast majority of people that watch the videos actually aren't even subscribed. So if you hit that subscribe button, it will actually just be very helpful for you and for the channel itself. If you're listening on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts, I'd love for you to hit the follow button on the Theology Talk podcast. Drop in the comments what you think. Is this helpful? What are things that you'd love to learn more about from the house of David? And we're going to jump into episodes 5 and 6. It's going to get wild. Appreciate you guys. See you next time.